Welcome back. Lawmakers were making the rounds today, reacting to both the Trump indictment for interference in the 2020 election and the early indications of the former president's legal defense. Take a look.
There are people who are in jail for several years for counterfeiting one vote. If they try to vote illegally once, he tried to steal the entire election. And his lawyers up there saying, oh, that's just a matter of him expressing his First Amendment rights. That's deranged.
We saw the attack on the Capitol, the attack on the police officers, and the insurrection. And so for his lawyers or for him to somehow say that this was just a mistake and bad legal advice is pretty sad at this point.
Joining me now, Democratic Representative from Minnesota, Ilhan Omar. Thank you so much for joining us, Congresswoman. We appreciate you. You were a real target of January 6th rioters. You posted this video I want to show for folks while you were sheltering in place. And by that afternoon, you were calling for the former president's impeachment. Really a full circle moment, I imagine, for you as that indictment came down. What was your reaction?
I was pleasantly surprised. I actually was one of those people that never really thought this day would come. You know, many of us have gotten used to seeing Trump get away with his criminal activities as president, and even before that. Many of us believed that the January 6th Commission, what they uncovered was not going to lead to much, that the Department of Justice was not going to take action. And the fact that this indictment has happened, I think, has restored some hope for myself and others in our justice system.
So one of the text messages that I got back from some kind of political strategists after this indictment dropped was, okay, what will now Republicans do to weaponize the government to get back at what they see as the weaponization of the Department of Justice by President Biden, which is obviously inaccurate as to what is going on here. And we are now seeing movement and, of course, calls for a potential impeachment of President Biden for what we're not quite sure. Do you think this is something that could see a vote on the House floor?
Well, we have to remember that Trump is a cult leader, and any cult follower is willing to die and commit crimes on behalf of their cult leader. And these cult followers of his in Congress are going to do everything that they can, including obstruction of justice. We have seen them previously threaten witnesses who would come in front of Congress to speak about his criminality. We have seen people go to jail for obstructing justice because of their loyalty to their cult leader. And I will not be surprised, and I don't think the American people are going to be surprised when they see a sham impeachment of Biden take place to distract from the fact that there are actual criminal charges that their cult leader is facing and that he is going to be held accountable. You are not going to get away with calling, Georgia officials and saying, I need 11,000 or so votes in order to remain president and not be found guilty for that. You're not going to see anybody, not notice the fact that not only did he ask Pence to overthrow the election, but literally called a mob in to intimidate him and other members of Congress. The level of criminality that the former president has engaged in is undoubtedly true, and I believe that the justice system is going to hold him accountable regardless of what his cult followers do and believe.
So there is this Washington Post op-ed, which kind of somewhat draws on what you were saying, but talking specifically about how, in fact, an impeachment could feasibly backfire on Republicans. I'm talking specifically, of course, the impeachment of former President Bill Clinton, in which he gained popularity after that impeachment. In this Washington Post piece, they write, yet although the president's opponents think it would enable them to show everyone how evil this administration supposedly is, the only ones exposed by impeachment would be Republicans themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and the basis also on this impeachment that the Republicans want to move forward is based on the president's son and his activities. The reality is the president's son is a 50-some-year-old man who has never held a political position. His father, as president or vice president, has never given him any authority. Unlike Trump in what he did with his children and his in-laws. So the fact that they believe the American people can't see the hypocrisy in wanting to hold Trump accountable for his son's actions, but never trying to hold Trump accountable for the actions of his daughter and his son-in-law and his sons, really is something that is, to me, very hilarious, and I'm sure very hilarious and telling to the American public.
Two things, Congresswoman, that I want to get to before I let you go. First and foremost is Ricky Cobb III, specifically a black man that was shot and killed this week by a Minnesota State Patrol officer during a traffic stop. There are now calls to fire the 3 officers involved. And you responded in a tweet saying this: Ricky Cobb should be alive. I am in anguish with his family and our community that has experienced far too much violence at the hands of law enforcement. The video footage is deeply disturbing, but only reiterates that what we already know. Interactions like these with law enforcement should not be a death sentence. We need to do more to ensure that this never happens again. I have been in contact with state leaders, and I'm urging them to move swiftly to investigate and get justice for Ricky and his family, calling for, of course, the removal of these officers involved as well. What action needs to happen here?
I mean, we obviously need, a swift investigation. Ricky was a constituent of mine, and it's really important for us to see a thorough investigation, for there to be accountability and justice for him and his family. We also have to end this sort of execution that takes place anytime there might be an interaction with police officers in situations that should not escalate in the way that the situation escalated. We also need an overhaul of our justice system to look at and get rid of opportunities that are created by the laws that we have for this kind of tragedy to take place. And I think it's really important for that to happen.
Congresswoman, I want to end on a high note, and we teased it coming to you. High note, pun intended here, I should say, celebrating recreational marijuana being legalized in your home state of Minnesota. You perform with a band called Ilhan Omar and the Music Rockers. Why was this legalization so important?
And it was a long time in the making, to join former Governor Jesse Ventura, who introduced this idea 20-some years ago, was really incredible. Minnesotans have been fighting to get rid of the criminality aspect that goes along with cannabis. There's so many people who have been incarcerated, and the fact that this legislation allows for those convictions to be overturned and expunged is something to celebrate. So it's really exciting to first be at First Ave. It's a historic place that our beloved Prince used to perform in.
Oh, right.
And it also was really cool to join, over 100 Minnesotans celebrating this really great achievement for our state.
Quite historic when you think about, obviously, Prince and his history of music in your state as well. The lead singer of Ilhan Omar.
I got to perform on stage for the first time, so that was fun.
My gosh, the lead singer of Ilhan Omar and the Music Rockers. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it. I'm sure our record label will be calling you soon.